Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of A Second Chance Stories of Young Offenders. We're your hosts, Kalista Lynn.
And Akshara Keshri, and today we have an incredible guest joining us. Meet Joseph Bell, a living testament to the power of redemption and the second chances.
Hi,
Sentenced to life
everyone.
without parole. Sentenced to life without parole, he defied the odds, securing a rare commutation after 24 years in prison. Now, as a case manager and advocate for criminal justice reform, Joe is rewriting the narrative, proving that transformation is possible, even in the face of the toughest sentences.
Hi, Joe. We want to start off by expressing our sincere gratitude for joining us today. We're so excited to hear for what you have to say today.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here also.
Perfect. To start off, can you provide a small background about yourself, where and how you were raised, and just how your life was like when you were young?
I was born and raised in San Francisco, a product of a broken home. My parents, they divorced at when I was 6 years old. So I was back and forth from my dad and my mom, mainly with my dad on the weekends. So I moved around a lot, went to different schools, and yeah, I made do with that. And I did pretty good in school. But yeah, San Francisco is where I'm from.
That's so cool. Honestly, I want to see how California is like. I haven't been there yet, but I just wanna see how life is like there because I don't know. I feel like California is the coolest state. But okay, so can you also share with us, starting to transition, the background and context of your legal case, including how you were sentenced to life without the possibility of parole, under the felony murder rule in California?
Yeah, as being growing up in San Francisco as a young male, um, I think I was hanging around with the wrong crowds a lot, looking for guidance and mentors because I wasn't with my dad as often as I would like to be. Um, so that was my crowd, and eventually it led to dealing drugs and just being in the streets and making fast money, which eventually led to me getting addicted to drugs, um, cocaine and marijuana mainly. Um, and that's what led to my crime. Me and a friend, we were over at a friend's house. We were partying, drinking, smoking weed, and two of them got into a fight, and I didn't do nothing about it. I went to the bathroom, came out, they were fighting. One got the best of the other. I panicked, I got scared, didn't know what to do. Then all of a sudden, we just started taking this stuff, and it's one of the worst decisions I ever made. It was a scary moment. At the same time, in my clouded judgment, being 26 years old and, just living life reckless, I just did what I was instinctively, you know, coerced kind of to do. But I take full responsibility for that. I regret that to this day. It's one of the reasons that I live amends and I try to give back as much as I can. Like you said, I got a rare opportunity to get a commutation. So I feel I still owe society, even though I did my time for the crime.
I'm so sorry to hear about your whole life story. I know there's been so many tragedies and so many bad things that happened to you. And I just wanted to thank you for sharing that. I know that's personal and vulnerable for you to speak about. But after spending 24 years in prison, your sentence was commuted and you were eventually paroled. Can you
Mhm.
describe the emotions and thoughts that went through your mind when you received this news?
First, I never thought well, there was a good possibility that I can die in prison.
Oh
So
no.
I kind of turned my life around maybe 10, 15 years ago. And I was living a life of amends inside prison. I was giving back, working with at-risk youth and facilitating classes
That's
and things like
amazing.
that. Because I felt like if I die in prison, hopefully it'll be, a worthwhile life that I live. But then in 2015, I put in for a commutation and didn't think nothing about it. I wrote it with a pen and just mailed it in and forgot about it. 3 years later, I got an interview from the governor's office. And then not too long after that, they called me into the program office, is where all the officers are at. And an assistant from the governor's office told me that my sentence was commuted, and they told me all the good things that I've been doing. And I don't know, I was kind of like in shock. I was a little emotional, but it really sunk in when I went back to the building and I called my wife to tell her. And I could barely get the words out. I was so emotional because I didn't, I wasn't sure if I'd ever get out, you know? So
That's
yeah,
so beautiful. That's such a
Yeah.
beautiful story.
yeah.
And
That's so admirable.
was that the first time you asked for a commutation, or have you asked for it before that?
No, that was the first and only time I asked. And through the years though, I think in that last year, because I got commuted in 2018, around early 2018, somebody told me, oh, find out about your commutation, find out what your number is, and send them the chronos and certificates you get at chronos, like when you do something good.
Mm-hmm.
There's also bad chronos too, but so I would start sending them in. Family would write letters of support. But yeah, I only applied one time. Jerry Brown commuted my sentence.
That's amazing to hear.
Yeah.
After your release, so reflecting on your own transition, can you share the challenges you faced in finding employment and adapting to technological changes and societal shifts?
Employment was a little intimidating. Like I said, I was 26, so I had a little job experience. I knew how to work on cars. I knew how to cut hair. Um, I knew how to cut grass. So I would do little odd jobs, with family and friends. And then eventually I got into janitorial, which I already know how to do also. And then I worked for Tesla. And I kept seeing people, they go through the probation period, and after they do a full background check, they get let go. So I was a little scared about that. So I started seeking other employment, and that's when I got a job with UPS. And it was the same thing. I was in there and I was doing good, and I was in the back of my mind, I'm scared that I might lose my job because of my background. But I think I found out that the way they do certain background checks, they might only go back 7 years. And my conviction was, 25 years old by that time. So I guess it wasn't popping up. And then when I finally found a job that valued, they call lived experience, being in prison and transitioning out, that I felt a little more confident, and that's when I started the case management work. But for challenges, I learned a lot on the job. Like with UPS, I had to learn the maps, the Google Maps, to get around. That took some time. I learned how to save, locations and stuff like that. As a case manager, I got more familiar with data sheets and writing and
I
inside.
just want to say you are the exact dream product of the American justice system. The American justice system today, many, many people who go to jail do not realize their mistake or refuse to accept what they did. But I feel like it's just so beautiful that you not only take full responsibility for it, you also learn from it. You did stuff towards correcting yourself, and then after you left prison, you continued to do honorable jobs and really put yourself in society, which is exactly the goal of this podcast.
Thank you.
But transitioning back into what you said about what you did inside prison, you did coordinate and facilitate various programs like self-help, anger management, relapse prevention classes. How did your these experiences shape your perspective on rehab and reintegration?
So this new thing out here in society, I think it's new with my lived experience. Working with people coming out of jail and prison is what I've been doing. I can relate to what they're going through as far as drug addiction and the stigma of mental health, the stigma of being a convicted felon. So
Yeah.
those tools that I learned from anger management, relapse prevention, I would use, working with individuals out here. and it's it's immeasurable. And right now I'm transitioning to work with at-risk youth because when I got out, it was in the peak of COVID, so really couldn't work with too many kids. But I think it's, waning off, and I've worked in a few programs inside the prison working with at-risk youth at 3 different prisons. I actually started one. And I think it's impactful for the young people that are on the fence about, crime, that they see what it can lead to actually, see, not a scared straight, just a reality check of where their life could go. So that's my mission now.
And I think that's so inspiring because I feel like many of the youth today, they don't have anyone to, to look up to or see as a role model. And I know you said earlier that you didn't have someone like that either, when you were young. So I think the fact that, you actually helping these people, right now after what you have learned and you experienced in, during your time in incarceration is just so important and so helpful. And I also know that you worked with the Human Rights Watch. So how
Yeah.
has your experience working with this organization influence your views on the use of life without parole sentences, and what changes would you like to see in the criminal justice system regarding this issue?
Well, Human Rights Watch has shown me that that people sentenced to die in prison is a national problem. For
Hmm.
me, it was a me problem. It was my family problem. It's the family of my victims, problem. Um, but now I see that it's nationwide, that this life without parole sentence is just, it's kind of like just being thrown out like candy, you know?
Mm,
You have a
yeah.
life sentence, then you have a death sentence, and you have life without in between. And I think society was under an impression like I was. I didn't even know what life without was, but until I got it. But it's like, oh, you think you go to the board but no, it's a slow death in prison. And I don't think there should be one. I don't even think there should be a death penalty, but there is. But
Hmm.
yeah, Human Rights Watch has taught me that, and that we have a lot of work to do. We've been trying to bring awareness to people are human beings. They make mistakes and they're redeemable, especially young people.
Wow. I mean, the Human Rights Watch, I believe that I would love to volunteer at some point in my lifetime. I know they are an amazing organization. Um, but I know they also have released a report highlighting, they released a previous report actually highlighting a low level of recidivism among individuals granted parole after being sentenced to LWOP. In your opinion, what factors contribute to this low recidivism rate?
First, I want to let you know, since you're talking about volunteering for Human Rights Watch, know that I work for National LWOP Leadership Council, which is like a subsidiary of Human Rights Watch, and we assisted with making the report. And
That's cool.
yeah, and
That's
your
pretty cool.
question on of the report was what
Oh,
contributes to the low recidivism rate, I believe, is that we as LWOPs, and I'm sure other lifers too, come to a point in time like I did, and are like trying to be a better person for themselves, no matter the sentence. Because you have short timers I've seen come in, oh, you got to do this, that, and that, and then go home. Whereas when you got life and no hope to go home, you only have yourself. So you're either gonna self-destruct or you're gonna, evolve into the person that you should be. So the low recidivism rate comes from just working on ourselves inside, I believe.
That I think that's such a important thing to understand because so many people, they see what's on the outside and they're just like, this person's a criminal. They belong in jail. They don't really try to understand what's beneath that, like under the surface, like what led to them behaving like this. Maybe you don't like fully understand, the whole story. Like I think that's just so important for people to understand,
mhm.
especially in our present society. Um,
Yeah. I
Switching
agree.
to you, in your current role as a case manager and peer support specialist for this nonprofit reentry program, what are some of the key challenges faced by individuals recently released from jail, and how do you support them in their transition?
So like more specific examples of what you've talked about so far.
Exactly.
So actually, I'm transitioning to another position, which will be a more emergency response. But I have been working with them for 2.5 years, and the biggest challenge has been people with mental health, because all of our clients, to be part of our program, but already have some type of mental health issue, underlying issue, and then some of them also have drug addiction issues. So that's like a code, two issues at the same time. And so that's been a challenge to balance mental health issues along with drug addiction. And once we get to the bottom of those, that we have a success story and they stabilize. Some people need medication. Some people just need talk therapy. Some people just need somebody to listen to them. Some people just need confidence builders. Like I didn't have the confidence when I got out because I had a felony, so there's jobs out there that you can do with a felony, and me leading them to those jobs, builds their confidence, we call self-efficacy. And yeah, so that's what it's been like working with people in case management, peer support specialists, and with people that just got out of jail.
I want to talk about what you just talked about with people coming out of jail and looking for a life that's not facing the stigma of you're a criminal, you're not allowed to live, you're not allowed to live happily. I want to also point out that recently the case of Gypsy Rose Blanchard just came out. I don't know if you've heard about her, but she just got released from jail and she's caused national and international media attention. And so many people have shown their support towards her in this case, in this trial. And I think it's absolutely important for everyone to receive such support, especially depending on their conditions in all these cases and what went wrong in their lives, to do such things and to really commit to an understanding society. So transitioning back to certain legislation that's related to the justice system, can you share more about the SB 94 legislation and its potential impact on people serving life without parole? Can you talk more about the actual legislation itself? Like explain what it is for the audience and how do you think it addresses the need for reconsideration and second chances?
All right, so the SB 94 is a Senate bill in California. California has the Senate and they have the Assembly. So there's two houses and they both have three committees: the public safety, the finance committee, and I'm forgetting the other one right now. But we went through all of those, and now you have to go through the three in the Assembly, then you go to three in the Senate, and then you go to the whole House. So Senate Bill 94 is in the full Assembly. We pulled it back for the people that wrote it, pulled it back because it was getting a little shaky last year. So we were regrouping and putting it back in the whole Senate this year. But what Senate Bill 94 does is it gives people that were sentenced to LWOP before June 5th, 1990, a second chance to look at their sentence. Because before 1990, a law, proposition passed where a judge could not strike a LWOP sentence. Like for me, for example, I was convicted of robbery murder, and the judge, robbery murder is a felony murder, but because the DA asked for LWOP, it's a felony murder special circumstance. So because the DA asked for that, the judge cannot say, oh no, life without is too much. So what the bill does, and the judge said, well, I have no discretion to do it. I would consider doing that. I would consider striking his LWOP sentence, but I can't because of the law. So this law would give the discretion back to the judge for those cases that, and it's only 500 cases, roughly 500 cases, and that's for people who, if the bill passes or when it passes, they have to petition the court. So most likely all 500 people won't petition the court. I hope they do. But then the judge gets a second look and say, okay, did this person deserve life without? Should he have got death, or her? Should she have got death? Or should that person get, like I got, 12 years and 4 months? Because under a different law, after I got commuted, the judge said, oh, you know, you weren't the actual killer, so you didn't deserve life without. We're going to send you to 12 years and 4 months. Do you agree, Mr. Bell? And I said, yes. So SB 94 is in a full Senate, and it should be back in there within the next month or two, and we're hoping to get that passed.
And sorry, you can go ahead, Akshara.
I don't. I was just in shock. I just said, "Wow."
I hope that wasn't too much. I hope I answered your question. I
You're
hope
good.
that
You're
wasn't
good.
too much
No, you're good.
But
Continue.
oh, sorry, you're gonna say something, Akshara?
No. I said continue.
Okay. Well, speaking of LWOP, so I know you said you are a council member, right? Of the okay. So as a National LWOP Leadership Council member, you collaborate and advocate for changes in laws. So what specific changes or reforms do you believe are necessary for the legal system, especially concerning life without parole sentences?
Well,
I think I would also. Sorry to cut you off.
go ahead.
I also want to add more to that question. Also concerning a little more subsection for juvenile justice specifically for people who were gone to jail when they were young. Continue.
Yeah, so that's what I was gonna say. That's the main thing across the nation, that we, you know, stop all juvenile people from getting LWOP, you know, under 18. And then we're finding that science says that people don't mature until they're 26, or their mind doesn't fully develop until 26.
Yeah.
So I think that's the change that we would like to see. We would like the LWOP sentence to be abolished altogether, because it's a slow torture. You know, everybody has a redeemable quality, and they should be given a chance to, you know, show that or grow into that. But yeah, definitely abolish it for young people 26 and under.
Wow. Okay. Yes, I completely agree. The juvenile justice stigma is our whole podcast, and that's what our whole story is about. And with that, our final question to you is: in your journey, you've demonstrated personal growth and transformation. What message do you hope to convey to those who might still hold negative perceptions about people with life without parole sentences?
I would say you can look at our track record of LWOPs that got out. You know, it's very, very, very low. I think it's across the United States is maybe 0.1 or something like that. It's really low.
I didn't know that.
Yeah,
that's a pretty important statistic.
Yeah, it's lower than regular lifers. I would say thank you for a second chance, and let me prove to you that, you know, we are human and we're worthy of a second chance. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Joe, for joining us today. You were amazing. And to the listeners, thank you for joining us for another episode of A Second Chance, Stories of Young Offenders. Until next time, remember that your story is still being written and that there's always hope for a brighter future. We'll see you guys next time.